Junseo learned two important things within the first 10 seconds of meeting Kang Taehyun. First, God clearly spent extra time on this man. Second, this man was going to ruin his life. Taehyun walked into the Seoul office like he owned oxygen itself. Tall, broad shoulders stretching the clean lines of his charcoal suit. Black hair falling just casually enough to look effortless, and eyes sharp as if they'd been designed specifically to pin people in place. His presence sucked all sound from the room. Keyboards slowed. Conversations died. Even the air conditioning seemed to hold its breath. "I'm Kang Taehyun," he said calmly. "Your new creative director." Half the staff visibly melted. Junseo did not. Junseo stared. Not because he was impressed. Absolutely not. But because this man had the audacity to be that attractive before 9 in the morning. Junseo crossed his arms. Great. Another beautiful tyrant. Taehyun began walking around the open office, surveying desks, screens, and posture like a king inspecting his kingdom. When he stopped behind Junseo's chair, Junseo felt it before he heard it. Heat at his back, a subtle scent of clean soap and something darker beneath. "Your layout," Taehyun said quietly. "It's cluttered." Junseo blinked. He slowly turned in his chair. "I'm sorry?" "You rely too much on bold colors," Taehyun continued, eyes scanning Junseo's monitor. "And your spacing lacks intention." Junseo stared up at him. The man was close. Too close. Junseo could see individual lashes. Could count the tiny beauty mark near Taehyun's jaw. His brain short-circuited for half a second. Then pride kicked in. "You just arrived 5 minutes ago," Junseo said. "And you're already rewriting my work?" Taehyun met his gaze without blinking. "Yes." Junseo stood. They were nearly chest to chest. Junseo was not short. Taehyun was just unfair. "Try saying that nicer," Junseo challenged. Taehyun raised one eyebrow. Junseo nearly swallowed his tongue. "That eyebrow should be illegal." "I'm not here to be nice," Taehyun replied. "I'm here to make this department better." Junseo forced a smile. "Congratulations. You've made it hostile." A faint curve touched Taehyun's lips. Barely there. Somehow that was worse. From that moment on, Junseo decided Kang Taehyun was public enemy number 1. By lunchtime, Junseo had complained to 3 co-workers. "He's beautiful but evil," Junseo whispered dramatically near the coffee machine. "So evil," Mina agreed, sipping her latte. "But did you see his hands?" Junseo groaned. "You people are weak." He tried very hard not to think about Taehyun's hands. He failed. Taehyun was ruthless in meetings. Precise. Efficient. Impossible to impress. Every suggestion Junseo made was met with calm critique. Every joke ignored. Every sarcastic comment met with professional silence. Junseo hated how attractive he looked while doing it. He hated it more that his stomach flipped every time Taehyun said his name. Junseo. Full. Steady. Direct. Junseo pretended it didn't do things to him. He also pretended not to notice Taehyun watching him when he thought Junseo wasn't looking. The universe, however, had a twisted sense of humor. That night, Junseo returned to the office for his forgotten phone. The lights were dim. The floor quiet. He followed the soft sound of a voice toward the conference room. Taehyun's voice. Junseo paused. Peeking through the glass, he saw Taehyun standing alone in front of the reflective wall, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. He was practicing. Gesturing. Adjusting his posture. Smiling. Then frowning. "No," Taehyun muttered to himself. "Less intense. You look like you're threatening them." He tried again. "Good morning, everyone." He nodded at his reflection. Then whispered, "Smile, Taehyun. Smile." Junseo lost it. A snort escaped before he could stop himself. Taehyun froze. Slowly he turned. Their eyes met. Junseo slapped a hand over his mouth, shoulders shaking. Sorry," Junseo wheezed. "Did you just tell yourself to stop looking murderous?" Taehyun closed his eyes. Just for a second. Then he opened them, resigned. "If you tell anyone," Taehyun said calmly, "I will personally end your career." Junseo grinned. "Noted." Taehyun sighed deeply, rubbing his temple. Junseo studied him more closely now, how his strict composure softened when he thought no one was watching, how exhaustion lingered beneath the polished exterior. "You're not as scary as you pretend," Junseo said. Taehyun looked at him. "And you're more trouble than you appear." Their gazes held. Something unfamiliar sparked between them. Junseo's pulse stumbled. He cleared his throat. "Oh, I forgot my phone." Taehyun nodded. "Good night, Junseo." Junseo turned to leave, then paused. "Kang Taehyun." "Yes." Junseo smirked. "Your presentation smile is cute." Taehyun stared. Junseo fled. Later that night, Junseo lay in bed replaying the moment over and over. The way Taehyun's eyes had darkened. The way his voice had wrapped around Junseo's name. Junseo pressed a pillow to his face. This was bad. Very bad. Across Seoul, Taehyun stood by his apartment window, tie discarded, replaying Junseo's grin in his mind. He exhaled slowly. So, the troublesome junior editor was going to be a problem. And somehow, Taehyun already suspected he wasn't going to fight it. The rain started like a warning. Soft taps against the windows. Polite. Almost gentle. By the time Junseo noticed it, the sky had already darkened into something dramatic and unforgiving, lightning flashing over Seoul like the city itself was holding its breath. Junseo leaned back in his chair and groaned. Please tell me this isn't real. His laptop screen flickered once. Then went black. No. No, no, no. He jabbed the power button. Nothing. Junseo stared at the dead screen in disbelief. You have got to be kidding me. Across the room, Kang Taehyun looked up. What happened? Junseo exhaled sharply. My laptop just committed suicide. Taehyun walked over, calm as ever, hands in his pockets. He glanced at the screen, then at Junseo. When was the last time you saved? Junseo blinked. Define recent. Taehyun closed his eyes. Junseo winced. Okay, wow. That sigh felt personal. You lost 3 hours of work. Junseo slumped forward dramatically onto his desk. This is a tragedy. Taehyun studied him for a moment, then said quietly, come. Use my office. Junseo looked up. What? You can redo it on my computer. Junseo hesitated. Taehyun's office was sacred territory. Cold. Minimal. Intimidating. Entering it felt like stepping into a luxury prison. But desperate times. Fine, Junseo muttered. If I catch your perfectionism disease, I'm suing. Taehyun's lips twitched. Junseo pretended not to notice. They worked in silence for a while. Junseo sat at Taehyun's desk, fingers flying over the keyboard. Taehyun leaned against the edge of the table nearby, reviewing documents on his tablet. The proximity was unbearable. Junseo could feel him. Not touching. Just there. His presence pressed against Junseo's senses like invisible hands. The faint scent of his cologne. The warmth of his body. The quiet sound of his breathing. Junseo shifted in his seat. Bad idea. The chair squeaked. Taehyun glanced at him. Junseo froze. What? Junseo snapped too quickly. Taehyun's gaze lingered for a second longer than necessary. You're tense. Junseo scoffed. I'm always tense. You cause stress. Taehyun hummed softly. Noted. Thunder rolled outside. The lights flickered. Junseo felt his stomach drop. Then, darkness. The entire office went black. Junseo yelped. Okay. That's new. Emergency lights flickered on, bathing the room in dim amber. Taehyun checked his phone. Power outage. Building systems are down. Junseo stared. Please tell me the backup generator is romantic. Taehyun gave him a look. Junseo sighed. Worth asking. They tried the elevators. Dead. Taehyun tried the stairs. Locked. Junseo leaned against the wall. So, we're trapped. For now. Junseo laughed weakly. Fantastic. Alone with my enemy during a thunderstorm. This feels like the start of a bad drama. Taehyun studied him. You're enjoying this. Junseo shrugged. A little. They returned to Taehyun's office. Rain hammered against the windows now, streaking the glass like the city was melting. Junseo dropped onto the couch with a dramatic flop. I'm starving. Taehyun opened a drawer and pulled out instant ramen cups and bottled water. Junseo stared. You keep emergency noodles? I work long hours. Junseo smiled. You just became 10% more attractive. Taehyun paused, then handed him a cup. Their fingers brushed. It was accidental. Brief. Junseo's breath caught anyway. Taehyun seemed to notice too. His jaw tightened slightly as he turned away to prepare the hot water from the office dispenser. They ate in quiet companionship, seated side by side on the couch. Junseo slurped loudly. Taehyun glanced over. Junseo grinned. What? It enhances flavor. You're uncivilized. And you're boring. Taehyun snorted before he could stop himself. Junseo's eyes widened. Did you just laugh? Taehyun cleared his throat. No. Liar. The tension eased. Just a little. Later, Junseo stood to stretch. That was when it happened. His elbow clipped his cup. Coffee arced beautifully through the air. And landed directly on Junseo's shirt. Oh my. Junseo jumped back, soaked. Taehyun stared. Junseo stared back. They both looked down. Junseo's thin white shirt was now semi-transparent, clinging to his skin. Taehyun's gaze froze. Junseo became acutely aware of everything. His chest, his waist, the way the fabric hugged him. He crossed his arms. Don't stare. Taehyun immediately looked away. I wasn't. Junseo raised an eyebrow. Your silence says otherwise. Without a word, Taehyun removed his suit jacket and held it out. Wear this. Junseo hesitated. Aren't you cold? I'll survive. Junseo slipped into the jacket. It was warm. It smelled like Taehyun. Clean. Subtle. Intoxicating. The sleeves were too long. Junseo pushed them up. Taehyun watched. Something shifted in his eyes. Junseo swallowed. The room suddenly felt smaller. They sat back down. Junseo curled into the corner of the couch, exhaustion catching up with him. He pulled the jacket tighter around himself. Minutes passed. Then Junseo's head slowly tipped sideways and landed on Taehyun's shoulder. They both froze. Junseo mumbled, half asleep, if you move, I'll sue. Taehyun didn't move. His body was rigid at first. Then gradually he relaxed. Junseo's warmth seeped into him. Junseo's soft breathing brushed against his neck. Taehyun stared ahead, heart beating far louder than the storm outside. Junseo shifted closer in his sleep. Their thighs touched. Taehyun inhaled sharply. This was dangerous. Junseo stirred, eyes fluttering open. Oh, Junseo murmured softly. Sorry. Taehyun's voice was low. It's fine. Their faces were close. Too close. Junseo looked at Taehyun's lips. Taehyun noticed. Neither spoke. Thunder cracked outside. Junseo whispered almost without thinking, you're different at night. Taehyun's gaze darkened. So are you. Something heavy settled between them. Electric. Unspoken. Junseo smiled faintly. I think, he said quietly, this storm is trouble. Taehyun didn't disagree. And for the first time since meeting Junseo, Kang Taehyun realized he was standing at the edge of something he absolutely should not fall into. Which, of course, meant he already had. Junseo realized he was in trouble the moment he started caring. Not the soft, reasonable kind of caring. The dangerous kind. The kind that made his chest tighten whenever Kang Taehyun leaned too close during meetings. The kind that made Junseo notice which coffee Taehyun preferred, and how he loosened his tie when stressed, and how his voice softened at night when the office was quiet. They hadn't talked about the storm. They hadn't talked about the couch. They definitely hadn't talked about the way Junseo still wore Taehyun's jacket in his imagination. Instead, they pretended everything was normal. Which was a lie. Taehyun grew stricter. More controlled. His professionalism sharpened like armor. Junseo grew reckless. He started teasing Taehyun in meetings. Sitting too close during reviews. Letting his knee brush Taehyun's under the conference table and pretending it was accidental. Taehyun never reacted outwardly. But his jaw would tighten. His eyes would darken. Junseo lived for those moments. It was stupid. It was thrilling. It was going to end badly. It happened on a Thursday evening. Junseo stopped by a cafe near the office to pick up a drink and froze when he saw Taehyun inside. Laughing. Actually laughing. With a barista. A pretty one. Junseo stood there, iced coffee forgotten in his hand, watching Taehyun lean casually against the counter, sleeves rolled up, posture relaxed in a way Junseo had never seen before. Something ugly twisted in Junseo's stomach. So that's how it was. Junseo turned on his heel and left. By the time Taehyun returned to the office, Junseo was already spiraling. He answered emails aggressively. Slammed drawers. Refused to make eye contact. Taehyun noticed immediately. You're upset, Taehyun said quietly. Junseo didn't look up. Wow. Amazing observation. Junseo. Junseo finally snapped. You seemed busy earlier. Taehyun frowned. Busy? With your cafe friend. Taehyun stared for a moment. Then understanding dawned. You saw that. Junseo crossed his arms. Relax. I'm not accusing you of anything. You're allowed to have a life. He stopped himself. Taehyun waited. Junseo looked away. I just don't like it, Junseo muttered. The room went very quiet. Taehyun's voice dropped. You don't like what? Junseo swallowed. You smiling like that for someone else. Taehyun stared at him. Something raw flickered across his face. He stepped closer. Junseo didn't move. You don't get to say things like that, Taehyun said softly. Not unless you're prepared for what they mean. Junseo's heart slammed against his ribs. Maybe I am. Taehyun didn't respond. Instead he grabbed his jacket. Come with me. Junseo blinked. Where? Now. Junseo barely had time to grab his phone before Taehyun pulled him out of the office and into the Seoul night. They ended up at a karaoke bar. Junseo stared at the neon sign. This is your dramatic confrontation spot? Taehyun paid for a private room. Inside, Junseo dropped onto the couch while Taehyun poured them drinks. Junseo took one sip and immediately coughed. This is lethal. Taehyun watched him with dark amusement. You ordered it. Junseo glared. You didn't stop me. They sat in charged silence until Junseo finally blurted, Why are you avoiding me? Taehyun didn't answer. Junseo stood, slightly unsteady, and walked closer. Every time I get near you, you pull back, Junseo said. You act like I'm a temptation you're trying to outrun. Taehyun's eyes burned into his. Because you are. Junseo froze. Taehyun exhaled slowly. You walk into my space. You look at me like that. You say things you don't understand the consequences of. Junseo stepped closer. Now they were inches apart. Then explain them to me. Taehyun's hand shot out, gripping Junseo's wrist. Not rough. Firm. Possessive. Junseo sucked in a breath. Taehyun pulled him into the hallway outside their room, pressing Junseo gently against the wall. Junseo's pulse exploded. You don't challenge me unless you mean it, Taehyun said quietly. I don't do halfway. Junseo's voice trembled just slightly. Good. Taehyun leaned closer, their foreheads almost touching. If I start, Taehyun whispered, I won't be gentle. Junseo smiled. It was shaky. Brave. Perfect. Then don't be. For a second, Taehyun looked like he was fighting himself. Then he gave in. He cupped Junseo's jaw and kissed him. Not soft. Not slow. It was controlled heat, restrained desire finally cracking. Junseo melted into it instantly, fingers gripping Taehyun's shirt, body responding before his mind could catch up. They broke apart breathing hard. Junseo rested his forehead against Taehyun's chest. Taehyun's hand stayed at Junseo's waist. Junseo laughed quietly. So, this is happening. Taehyun huffed. Unfortunately. Junseo looked up. Unfortunately? Taehyun brushed his thumb along Junseo's cheek. You're trouble. Junseo grinned. You like trouble. Taehyun didn't deny it. After that, everything changed. Taehyun became openly protective. Junseo became bold. They stole kisses in elevators. Shared knowing looks in meetings. Taehyun started walking Junseo home under the excuse of safety, and Junseo started leaving things at Taehyun's apartment on purpose. Junseo learned Taehyun was intense in everything. The way he held Junseo close, the way he listened, the way he kissed like he meant it. Taehyun learned Junseo talked too much when sleepy and liked being pulled closer instead of asked. One night, curled together on Taehyun's couch, Junseo traced lazy circles on Taehyun's arm. You're scary when you're serious, Junseo murmured. Taehyun kissed his hair. And you're reckless. Junseo smiled. That's why we work. Taehyun tightened his hold. He looked down at Junseo, eyes heavy with promise. You asked me not to hold back, Taehyun said quietly. Junseo met his gaze, heart racing. Yes. Taehyun kissed his temple. Then don't expect mercy. Junseo shivered and smiled. Dating Kang Taehyun was a battlefield, and Junseo had long ago surrendered. Not that he minded. Every morning, he woke up to the warmth of Taehyun's chest, the faint scent of soap and something darker, almost magnetic, and the steady beat of a man who could be ruthless in the office yet gentle in private. Junseo often wondered how someone so sharp, so commanding, could also be so tender. That tenderness came with complications. Like office gossip. Junseo had barely returned to his desk one Monday when Mina appeared, practically bouncing with excitement. Junseo, I saw him leave your apartment yesterday. Holding your hand. Junseo froze. You saw what? And he bought you coffee. And you were laughing. Oh my god, Junseo, the entire office. Junseo waved her off, cheeks hot. I don't care what anyone thinks. Taehyun, standing behind him, cleared his throat. Junseo turned. Yes. Keep laughing like that at work, Taehyun said quietly, voice low and dangerous. And I will personally make you regret it. Junseo swallowed. Yes, sir. He turned back to Mina, who looked like she had seen a shark, and whispered, Don't tell anyone I'm terrified. Taehyun was all-consuming in his possessiveness. At first, it had made Junseo laugh. He imagined a man like Taehyun issuing a verbal, do not touch, over his lunchbox. But then, it became something else. One night, after a particularly long day, Junseo had found himself at Taehyun's apartment again. The man had thrown on a loose shirt and jeans, casual, dangerous, perfect, and poured 2 glasses of wine. Junseo sipped nervously. You know, Taehyun said, voice low, eyes glittering, I don't like sharing you with anyone. Or anything. Junseo's breath hitched. Oh? What counts as sharing? Taehyun smirked. Coffee. Office gossip. Other men. You. Junseo laughed shakily. You sound like a jealous villain. I'm not joking, Taehyun said, leaning close. And you've made this very tempting. Junseo swallowed hard, heart racing. The air between them was thick with tension, almost tangible, heavy with promises and desire. He grinned, teasing. Maybe I like tempting you. Taehyun's hand shot out, gripping Junseo's waist. His thumb traced slow circles over the waistband of Junseo's pants. Then you should know, he murmured, I take what I want. Junseo shivered. And if I resist? Taehyun's eyes darkened. You won't last. The room felt too small. The air too hot. Their laughter and whispered threats blended into a rhythm as old as temptation itself. Chaos didn't end at home. One Friday, Taehyun's best friend, Miho, visited unexpectedly. You're dating him? Miho asked, practically dropping onto the couch. The tiny menace who finally domesticated Kang Taehyun? Junseo laughed nervously. Tiny menace? You are officially the reason my best friend now sleeps with one eye open, Miho said, smirking. Junseo shrugged. And yet he seems happy? Taehyun growled softly. Don't encourage him. Junseo grinned, reaching over to tweak Taehyun's tie. Relax, I'm harmless, mostly. Taehyun's jaw tightened. Mostly. Despite the chaos, their relationship had settled into a strange, perfect rhythm. They fought. They laughed. They teased. They ignited a storm of desire and tenderness whenever the other least expected it. Junseo loved that. Loved Taehyun's possessiveness. Loved the way his fingers traced Junseo's spine in the dark. Loved the mornings when Taehyun would smirk over coffee and call Junseo trouble, like a secret he didn't want anyone else to know. Junseo, for his part, loved seeing Taehyun's walls come down. Watching the man who could command a room be utterly vulnerable when it came to him. One night, curled together on Taehyun's couch after a particularly eventful day, Junseo let his head rest on Taehyun's chest. You really did take me without mercy, he murmured. Taehyun pressed a kiss to Junseo's hair. And you let me. Junseo grinned. You ruined my life. You're welcome, Taehyun said, voice teasing but soft. Junseo sighed, happy and exhausted. Do you think we'll ever survive?